The wind howled between the towering skyscrapers of the alien city of Orellan. The sky was filled with flying ships, their lights flashing against the dark clouds. Far above the bustling streets, on the rooftop of an old building, a human stood. Alone. His name was Cole. He looked down at the endless lights below, his hands resting calmly on a cold metal railing. Cole wasn't nervous. He knew he was being hunted. He had known the moment he stepped into the city. But he didn't run. He waited, knowing the rooftop was the perfect place for an assassin to strike. The wind blew harder, but Cole didn't flinch. His sharp eyes scanned the shadows around him, expecting company. Then he heard footsteps, soft, calculated, like a predator closing in on its prey. From the darkness, a figure emerged. A tall woman stepped into the faint rooftop lights. Her skin was a smooth shade of deep blue, her silver hair tied back, and her glowing eyes locked onto him like a hawk watching a mouse. She was Zyla, one of the most feared assassins in the galaxy. She was known for her perfect kills, no second chances, no mistakes. Cole had heard the stories. She never missed. Yet, here she was, gun in hand, her presence as cold as the steel in her grip. "You're not running," Zyla said, her voice low but clear, almost curious. Cole turned around. Slowly, his face calm, his smile faint. "Should I?" Zyla raised the sleek black pistol, her finger hovering near the trigger. The barrel of the gun pointed right between his eyes. She stepped closer, her boots making a soft clinking sound on the rooftop. "Any last words, human?" she asked, her voice dripping with mockery. Most people begged. Some cried. Others screamed. Zyla had seen it all. But this human just stood there, smiling like he was sharing a joke only he understood. Cole tilted his head, his eyes fixed on hers. "Last words, huh?" he whispered, a grin slowly stretching across his face. "Not yet." Zyla's grip tightened. She had heard of this human before. Cole was a troublemaker, a rebel, a strategist. The Galactic Syndicate had placed a hefty bounty on his head. She expected a fight, some resistance, maybe even a plea, but this quiet confidence was unsettling. She took another step forward, finger now brushing the trigger, ready to end the job. The wind howled again, tossing strands of her silver hair across her face. She didn't blink. Then Cole chuckled, shaking his head. "You're nervous," he said, almost playfully. Zyla's eyes narrowed. "I don't get nervous, don't you?" Cole stepped to the side, casually leaning on the railing. "Because your finger is trembling. And that's not just the wind." Zyla glanced at her hand, noticing the tiniest shake. It annoyed her. She was always in control, but something about this man made her uneasy. He was supposed to be just. Another human target, nothing more. She pushed the feeling aside. "You've wasted your last breath," she growled, aiming carefully. "Say goodbye, human." Cole's grin widened. He raised his hand slowly, pointing at her pistol. "Yeah." "Safety's on." Zyla blinked. For a moment, her mind hesitated. Then she squeezed the trigger. Click, nothing, her heart skipped. She immediately checked the weapon. The safety was still engaged. But how? Oh, she always disengaged it before stepping in for the kill. She was sure of it. Zai's shot up to Cole, who was now laughing softly. He looked completely relaxed, as if this wasn't the first time he'd been in such a situation. "You're probably wondering how," he said, pushing himself off the railing. "Let's just say, I like to prepare." Zyla's mind raced. She never let her guard down. But he had done something, maybe while she was stalking, maybe when she revealed herself. Somehow he had reached her weapon without her knowing. Before she could fix her mistake, Cole moved. His hand shot forward, striking the gun from her grip. It clattered to the floor. Zayla swung at him, but he ducked with ease, grabbing her wrist and twisting. She winced, but didn't cry out. Instead, she tried to punch with her free hand, but Cole caught it too. For a moment, they stood locked in struggle, eyes burning into each other. Zayla's pride refused to accept this beaten by a human. Impossible. You're fast, she muttered. And you're too confident. Cole replied, still holding her tight. Confidence kills. With a swift motion, Cole pushed her back. Zayla stumbled but didn't fall. She stood tall, her breathing steady but heavy. Realizing this mission wouldn't be easy, Cole smiled again, his eyes sharp with intelligence. Try again if you like, he said. But next time, remember to check the safety. Zayla's pride was wounded, but her curiosity was now lit. This was no ordinary human. She wanted to know more, and next time she wouldn't make the same mistake. Above them, the wind kept howling, but the real storm was just beginning. Zayla stood in the middle of the rooftop, staring at the human with disbelief burning in her chest. She had never failed before. Never. The galaxy whispered her name with fear. And yet this human, this smug, clever human, had disarmed her without even breaking a sweat. The safety, she still couldn't understand how he had done it. She was sure she had checked it before stalking him. Had he touched her weapon? Cute. No one had ever gotten that close to her without her knowing. The wind still screamed around them, but in her head, it was quieter, now focused. She retrieved her gun slowly from the floor, her eyes locked on Cole, who simply stood there with that same irritating grin. He didn't move to attack. He didn't even pull a weapon of his own. That made her feel even more insulted. You think this is funny, human? She snapped, reloading her pistol carefully this time. She checked the safety twice. Cole shrugged, still resting against the metal railing, like a man watching a sunset. I think it's funny when a professional makes rookie mistakes. Her pride burned hotter. She was not a rookie. She was Zayla of the Syndicate. She had killed warlords, spies, generals. Yet here she was, outplayed by a man who should have been an easy mark. Her employers had warned her this human was different. Now she understood. But Zayla's pride wouldn't let her retreat. No assassin runs from prey. She stepped forward again, this time slower, her gun aimed steady. You're not walking out of here alive, she said coldly. I was paid for your head, and I always deliver. Cole chuckled. Paid, huh? Figures. You assassins only care for credits, not the truth. Truth. Zayla's eyes narrowed. What truth? You didn't even ask why they want me dead, Cole replied, his voice smooth but laced with something darker. That's the problem with you hired killers. Shoot first. Ask never. Zayla paused. She was trained not to care. But the way he said it, the confidence in his voice, made her hesitate. What was he hiding? Why was the Syndicate so desperate? To erase him? I don't need your story, she said flatly. But you're curious, Cole said with a sly smirk. I can see it in your eyes. That little itch in the back of your mind. You want to know why this job feels wrong. Zayla clenched her jaw. He was right, but she would never admit it. She raised the pistol again, this time pulling the trigger without hesitation. But she was firing at a shadow. Cole was already moving. He dove to the side, vanishing behind the rooftop machinery and vents. Zayla fired again, bolts of bright energy scorching the metal, but she couldn't catch him. Her anger grew. She chased after him, weaving between the structures. The rooftop became a deadly maze of cover and steel. Zayla was fast, no human could outrun her. But every time she turned a corner, Cole was already gone. You're fast, she muttered to herself, but not faster than me. Suddenly, a voice echoed behind her. Speed isn't everything, Zayla. She spun around. Cole stood casually on top of a generator, smiling down at her. His presence was relaxed, but his eyes were sharp, studying, calculating. "You're predictable," he added. "You chase like a hunter who thinks the prey is scared. But what if the prey laid the trap?" Before Zayla could react, the floor beneath her clicked. She looked down in horror, a small device attached to her boot. A magnetic snare. With a powerful force, her foot locked to the metal floor. She was stuck. Cole jumped down, landing gracefully, and approached her with slow, confident steps. "First, the safety," he said. "Now the footwork." "Maybe I should teach you a class." Zayla glared at him, struggling against the magnetic pull. Shh. She raised her gun to shoot, but Cole was faster this time. He grabbed her wrist, twisting it, just enough for her to drop the weapon again. It clattered uselessly on the floor. She stared up at him, breathing hard, her pride shredded but her mind racing. How was a human doing this? How was he always one step ahead? Cole stood over her, not with cruelty, but with something else in his eyes, pity mixed with admiration. "You're good, Zayla, but you're fighting the wrong human." The wind howled again, but neither of them moved. Up. The hunter was trapped, and the prey was still smiling. "You could kill me now," she said, voice low. "I could," Cole agreed. "But I'd rather know why the galaxy keeps sending its best to kill me." Zayla stayed silent. For the first time, she wasn't sure who the real predator was anymore, asked ChatGPT. Zayla stood frozen, one foot pinned by the magnetic snare, her pride wounded more than her body. She had never been caught like this before. Every mission she had ever accepted ended with a clean, quick kill. But this human was playing a different game, one she didn't understand. And worst of all, he was smiling. Cole crouched a few feet away from her, resting his arms on his knees, watching her with the same grin that had annoyed her from the start. But this time, his grin wasn't just amusement, it was a challenge. "You don't even know when you lost," Cole said, his voice calm, like he was chatting with an old friend instead of a deadly assassin. Zayla clenched her fists, the magnetic lock on her boot humming quietly. She refused to show weakness. "You think a little trap makes you clever?" Cole tilted his head, smirking wider. "No, Zayla, the trap wasn't just the snare. The real trap was your ego." Her eyes narrowed, sharp as a blade. "You know my name." "Of course I do," Cole replied. "The Syndicate doesn't just send anyone. They send the best. And you, Zayla, have quite the reputation." "I did my homework." Zayla's mind raced. She had kept her identity hidden on this mission. How had he known? She hated being caught off guard, but there she was, caught, trapped, disarmed, and still being lectured. "How did you touch my weapon?" she demanded. "When did you?" Cole chuckled. "You're good at sneaking, but you forget humans are good at one thing, two-timing." He pointed to a small device clipped on his belt. Proximity disruptor. It scrambles sensory perception for a brief window. The moment you stepped onto the rooftop, your awareness slipped for just 2 seconds. Just enough for me to brush by and flick your safety back on. Zayla's eyes widened. She didn't feel it. She didn't sense it. 2 seconds of blindness, that's all it took. "That's impossible," she muttered. "Impossible is a word aliens like to use when humans surprise them," Cole said with a grin. "And believe me, we're full of surprises." Zayla's pride cracked further. She had heard rumors of humans being clever, slippery, but this was something else. She wasn't facing a desperate target. She was facing a strategist. A human who turned every weakness into a weapon. "I should kill you," she hissed, though her situation said otherwise. Cole stood up, brushing dust off his pants. "You could try, but tell me, aren't you curious now about why you were sent to kill me? About why I'm still alive after so many others tried?" Zayla stayed silent, but the question lingered in her mind. She had been given a target. Human causing disruption, they said. Nothing more. She didn't care for politics. But now she wanted to know. Cole stepped closer, his shadow falling over her. They want me dead because I know something they don't want spreading across the galaxy. What is it? She asked, despite herself. Cole smiled, but this time, there was no mockery in his eyes, only a spark of defiance. The truth about humans, about why we're not just another species to conquer. Zayla stared at him, trapped, yet feeling something strange: respect, annoyance, maybe both. She wanted to understand, but she didn't know if it was out of curiosity or to sharpen her next attempt. Unlock me, she said finally. Cole raised an eyebrow. What? No promises you won't shoot me? She scowled. If I wanted to kill you, I'd find another way, but I want answers first. Cole considered for a moment, then pressed a button on his wrist. The magnetic lock clicked, releasing her boot. Zayla stood slowly, her gaze never leaving his. You've made me curious, human, she said coldly. That's dangerous. Cole chuckled. Curiosity is the first step to realizing we're not so easy to kill. The wind howled once again, but now it carried a different tone, one of uneasy truce. The assassin and the human stood face to face, both wondering who was really the hunter here. For a long moment, neither of them moved. The wind whipped across the rooftop, fluttering Zala's silver hair like a banner caught in a storm. She stared at Cole, her body finally free, her pride still shackled. She should have shot him, ended it, but something inside her refused. She wasn't used to feeling intrigued by a target, but this human, it was like peeling back the layers of a puzzle that kept rearranging itself. Cole, standing just a few feet away, didn't reach for a weapon. He didn't back away. Instead, he looked her square in the eye, confident, steady like a man who knew she wouldn't pull the trigger now. Still want to finish the job? Cole asked, his voice easy, but his gaze sharp. Zayla flexed her fingers, aching to wrap them around her pistol, but even she knew it wouldn't matter. The moment had shifted. The power had changed hands, not because he held a weapon, but because he held the one thing she didn't control. No, she admitted coldly. Not until I know why the Syndicate is afraid of you. Cole's grin flickered into something serious. He walked to the rooftop's edge, gazing at the neon-lit city below. Because humans are inconvenient, he said quietly. We don't follow the galaxy's rules. We don't play by the Syndicate's game. And when we're cornered, we bite back harder than anyone expects. Zayla crossed her arms, skeptical. The galaxy has crushed stronger species than yours. Strength isn't just muscle or weapons, Cole replied, turning back to her. It's ideas. Humans spread ideas like wildfire. Freedom, rebellion, defiance. The Syndicate can't control that, so they try to kill it. She watched him closely. His eyes weren't just full of defiance, they carried pain, loss, and the weight of knowing too much. Zayla wasn't sure if it was an act or if the human was genuinely dangerous in ways she didn't understand. And you? What makes you special? She asked. Why send me for you? Cole smiled faintly. Because I've done more damage with words and plans than an army could with guns. That struck her. Zayla was a killer, a shadow in the dark. She thought she was the most dangerous thing in the galaxy. But Cole, he was dangerous because he made others believe. That scared the Syndicate more than any assassin. You still haven't answered one thing, Zayla said, stepping closer. Why didn't you kill me when you had the chance? Cole's grin returned, sly and knowing. Because dead assassins don't ask questions. But living ones might just start thinking. Zayla stared at him, heart pounding with a strange frustration. She was supposed to be the predator. Yet here she was, still standing, still listening. I should kill you. She muttered again, But you won't, Cole replied smoothly, because now you're curious. And curious assassins change sides. His words hung in the air between them, heavier than any bullet. Zayla didn't respond. She just stood there, conflicted, because deep down, she knew he was right. The power had shifted, and now she wasn't sure whose side she was really on. Zayla paced slowly across the rooftop, her boots scraping the metal surface with every step. She wasn't pacing because she was nervous at least. That's what she told herself. She was trying to think, to piece together what had just happened. No target had ever tangled her mind like this before. She was supposed to pull the trigger, walk away, and collect her reward. But instead, here she was, circling a human who stood still like he owned the sky. Cole watched her with quiet patience, arms folded across his chest. He didn't need to chase her. He knew the storm in her mind was louder than any words he could offer. And that was part of the game. Finally, Zayla stopped, her back to him, and said in a low voice, "They call you a threat to the order of the galaxy, but they didn't tell me why. Now I'm asking." Cole smiled faintly, "Because the Syndicate fears stories more than soldiers." She turned, her glowing eyes. "Narrowing stories." "Yeah," Cole replied, stepping forward, his voice carrying weight. "Stories about humans who don't break under pressure. About humans who, when backed into a corner, find a way out not because we're stronger, but because we refuse to give up." Zayla crossed her arms, unconvinced. "That's just noise. The Syndicate crushes rebellion every cycle." Cole's smile deepened. "They tried. But the more they crush, the more seeds they plant. They spread fear, but in that fear, we grow smarter. Quieter. I've been behind 5 major uprisings. On 3 planets, all of them started with whispers, not weapons." Zayla's eyes widened slightly. She had heard of these uprising small colonies suddenly turning into war zones, Syndicate control slipping through their fingers. But she was never told humans were the root cause. "I was told it was alien radicals," she muttered. Because? "The truth is worse," Cole replied. "That humans, the species no one expected to matter, are teaching others how to resist." Zayla looked at him, seeing not just a man, but a symbol of trouble. That made her job make sense. The Syndicate didn't want a man dead. They wanted the idea of Cole dead. Silencing him would kill the message. "So they sent you," Cole continued, "because you don't ask questions. You pull the trigger, clean and simple." She flinched. Internally, he was right. But something had changed the moment he smiled and told her the safety was on. That grin, that confidence, it wasn't human arrogance. It was certainty born from experience. "You're more dangerous than I thought," she admitted. "And yet," Cole said with a playful tilt of his head, "I'm still unarmed." Zayla snorted softly. "For now," Cole chuckled. "For now?" There was silence between them, heavy but electric. Zayla felt this wasn't just a mission anymore. This was a test, a decision point. She could walk away, report back. Or she could stay and learn more. "Why tell me all this?" she asked. "Because assassins talk," Cole said simply. "Sooner or later, someone hears. Maybe you'll be the one." Zayla didn't answer. But deep down, a flicker of doubt toward her employers had begun. And once that flicker starts, it's hard to kill. She wasn't sure if Cole was a threat to the galaxy, but he was definitely a threat to her certainty. Zayla stood at the rooftop's edge, the wind tugging at her silver hair, her mind heavier than ever. She was still an assassin by name, still the Syndicate's sharpest blade, but her heart wasn't sure anymore. This human had done more than escape her kill shot. He had invaded her thoughts, shaking the certainty she once carried like armor. Cole stayed a few steps behind, giving her space as if he knew she needed it. He wasn't smiling now. His eyes watched her carefully, reading her like an open book. He didn't gloat. He waited. At last, Zayla turned to face him. "You think one conversation changes everything?" Cole shrugged, casual as ever. "I don't need everything to change. I just need a crack." Zayla crossed her arms, staring hard at him. "And if I report back, if I tell them where you are, right now?" "You could," Cole said, nodding slowly. "But that's not your style anymore." His words stung, because deep down, she knew he was right. She wasn't the same Zayla who accepted this contract. Something had shifted. She couldn't even name it: pride, curiosity, respect. Maybe all of it. "What do you want from me?" she asked sharply. "An extra set of eyes," Cole replied. "And someone on the inside. Someone like you." Zayla laughed coldly. "You want me to betray the syndicate? Just like that?" Cole stepped closer, his voice low, steady. "No, I want you to start thinking, what are you really loyal to? The credits? The contracts? Or the truth you've never been allowed to see?" That hit deeper than she expected. Zayla had always been a weapon, pointed where needed, never questioning the hand that held her. But now, standing before this unarmed human who had outwitted her at every step, she felt something she'd never felt before: uncertainty. "And if I refuse?" she asked. Cole smiled faintly. "Then you walk away. No traps, no bullets. But the next time we meet, you'll already know whose side you're really on." Zayla stared into his eyes, searching for deception, for weakness, but all she saw was conviction. It was maddening. "You're dangerous," she muttered. "And you're intrigued," Cole replied. Silence settled between them again, but this time it wasn't cold. It was the silence before a choice, a crossroad neither could avoid. Finally, Zayla nodded slowly. "I'll listen. That's all I'm promising." "That's enough," Cole said with a grin. "For now." The wind carried their words into the sky, and just like that, an assassin and a human revolutionary stood side by side. Not yet allies, not yet enemies, but something in between. And in the galaxy's shadowy corners, that was more dangerous than any open war. Ask ChatGPT. The city lights beneath them flickered like a sea of restless stars. But neither Zayla nor Cole cared to look down anymore. Up here, on the rooftop where death had been expected but never delivered, something had changed, an unspoken shift in the rules neither of them could undo. Zayla holstered her weapon, the act more symbolic than practical. She wasn't here to kill, at least, not tonight. She glanced sideways at Cole, the man who had laughed in the face of her gun. The man who had beaten her not with brute strength, but with a smirk and a plan. "You're not what I expected from a human," she said quietly. Cole chuckled, brushing dust off his sleeves. "Most people think we're easy to break." "That's their first mistake." "And the second?" she asked. "Thinking we'll stay broken," Cole answered with a sly grin. She hated how easily he made her smile. Fully, not yet, but a twitch at the corner of her mouth betrayed her amusement. She wasn't used to that, not on missions, not with targets. Yet here she was, lowering her guard for a man she should have executed hours ago. "What now?" Zayla asked. "You've got your little speech in my head. What's your next move, strategist?" Cole turned, looking out across the horizon where the alien sky met distant mountains. "Now we stir the galaxy awake, but not alone." Zayla raised an eyebrow. "You think I'm helping you already?" Cole looked over his shoulder. "I think you're curious enough to stick around. That's enough for me." She wanted to argue, to deny it. But deep inside, she knew he was right. She had questions she needed answered. Not just about Cole, but about herself. About the syndicate, the galaxy, and the quiet hunger for truth that had never been fed until now. "Fine," she muttered. "But I'm not your ally, human. Not." Yet, Cole smiled. his eyes shining with that same defiant spark. "Not yet," he echoed. "But soon." As they walked away from the rooftop, Zayla felt the shift inside her solidify. She was no longer just an assassin on a contract. She was something more dangerous, now a question waiting for an answer, a blade no longer certain where to strike. Somewhere deep in the Syndicate's strongholds, a storm was coming, and it had a human's grin, and an assassin's shadow. The game had begun. Ask ChatGPT.